Hi everyone, this is Dr. Amina Etiselmi for another episode of Wise Wednesdays. This week we're talking about the 4-day work week. Is it possible and why aren't we there already? Recent Wise Wednesdays have covered the topic of work culture, toxic work culture, and the myths around it. And this week, a research colleague of mine was on the BBC announcing that there's a lot of research to support the idea of a 4-day work week. A study from New Zealand seems to show that it increases engagement, it increases the effectiveness of teamwork, and it doesn't really have an effect on productivity and potentially improves it. So why isn't this being implemented? There's been previous research showing that having too heavy a workload and not having enough time for rest is detrimental to performance. I believe that, like in any situation in the past, any historical change has required new ideas going up against old ideas, the old ideas becoming a kind of dogma that's ingrained in the culture and that's difficult to break out of or reform. But since there's growing evidence, what can we do and what are the barriers in the way of this 4-day work week? One of the cultural myths that seems to be very pervasive, particularly amongst service professions or any profession where there's a sense of wanting to help, and for people and individuals and leaders who are driven by value, by wanting to make a difference and improve the world. And that is the rescuer myth or the fixing myth, which means that we spend more time than we need trying to solve problems, which generates more thinking, more doing, and takes up more time and energy than needed, when a different approach might work better and might lead to a solution or a resolution faster. So what is the fixing myth or the rescuer myth? It's the myth where we believe that we have to step in and save the day. It's the belief that we are the one to solve the problem. And that if we don't do it, it's not going to work, it's not going to change, and things are going to stay the same. And as with anything, particularly in transformational coaching or personal development, awareness is the starting point. We need to be very aware of how these patterns and these myths or these limiting beliefs, both on an individual and a collective level, operate through us and our organizations. So, the fixing myth or the rescuer myth, how does that show up for you? Well, does it show up in your conversations? Are you spending too much time giving advice, trying to give solutions, trying to brainstorm, trying to share information, but actually not getting to the wisdom that's needed to create a breakthrough and move forward? Is it showing up in what you do? Do you spend a lot of time perfecting things, overworking things, creating a lot of meetings or a lot of paperwork that generates a lot of busyness but not productivity? Or does it show up in a more subtle way in your thinking? Do you spend a lot of time overthinking things and ruminating and thinking things through time and time again, when in fact you may need a break away from the situation so that that genius, brilliant insight can come to you whilst you're doing something else? You might be taking a walk, you might be focusing on something completely different, maybe a hobby or creative activity, and that's when the genius idea comes. So these are some of the ways it's always worth reflecting and sitting and seeing, well, how am I embodying or how am I living out this limiting belief or this myth? And in this case, the fixing myth. And it can be difficult. Change and letting go of these conditioned ideas that we've grown up with, that the culture reinforces, can be difficult. It can be quite scary because we're stepping into the unknown, and then we have to face uncertainty. And with uncertainty, there's all sorts of potential scenarios that the mind starts to throw up to try and protect us. So our fear starts to hijack our thinking and hold us back. But if doing this work, going through the change, going through a bit of discomfort, maybe with the help of a coach or someone who can facilitate that change and support you in it, either for you, your team, or your organization, if that gave you more time and more energy back to do things you really care about, wouldn't it be worth it? Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for the comments and the feedback you've given me on Wise Wednesdays so far. Please feel free to leave me any ideas, questions, comments this week, and I will try and get to them and respond next time. Have a wonderful week. Until soon. Bye-bye.